Well, good morning, campers. We have picked up a truck in Florida and we are heading towards Connecticut. It's about a 40,000 pound bucket truck, almost brand new. And we're heading up the road in the middle of the night with nothing else to do. I thought I'd give you a little talk on diesel fuel. Now, for those of you who handle diesel fuel all the time, you don't have to listen to this. But those of you who are not used to diesel, running diesel trucks, it might come in handy. When you turn on a diesel truck for the first time in the morning or whenever, you've got to give that computer on the new truck time to analyze every system. So turn it on until the lights all come on and you start hearing it going buzz, click, click, click. And the lights will start going off on the dash, all the warning lights. Now, when they all settle down and stop going off, then start the truck. Now, if it's winter time, you're going to have a wait to start light and a little tiny coil. That's a glow plug, and it's a spark plug that's designed because the diesel doesn't use spark plugs to ignite the fuel. They use compression, really high compression, to explode the fuel when the cylinder comes up full of fuel. So the wait to start is a little spark plug, and it's a heater coil, and when the engine's cold, that glow plug will come on and get red hot, so that when the cylinder comes up and the diesel's in there, it'll make sure to fire. Now we're running into a lightning storm here. It'll make sure to fire that cylinder when it's cold. Man, they are very handy, but you got to wait till that wait to start light goes out. Then fire up your diesel. Now, sounds like I'm being a little bit picky, but what's going to happen, especially on the new Freightliners, and sometimes the Internationals, not so much the Detroits, but especially the Freightliners, say that you jump in, you're in a hurry, you whip that ignition key on and fire that baby up, and it'll start just fine. But you'll see the lights kind of doing some goofy little things, trying to figure out what the hell you're doing starting this poor thing without waiting for it to check its safety systems and fuel systems out. And your check engine light will come on, possibly, and who knows what other lights that you caught this system in the middle of checking it and you decided to fire it up. Now the problem with the new Freightliners is some of them, at least the newer ones, you can't cancel that check engine light. It doesn't go back out. You have to take it to the dealer, and it makes the yard pretty aggravated when you keep bringing the trucks back with check engine lights on and they don't need to be. Because you started it too quickly. Okay, now, like I said, if you run diesel all the time, just ignore this chapter. But if you don't run diesel all the time, and you're running the winter time, you always want to run number 2 diesel, because it's got a non-gel element in it. It's almost like an STP or a thinner that'll keep that fuel in a real small fuel line from freezing up in sub-zero weather. Otherwise, you're going to be driving down the road a few feet, a few hundred yards, and it's going to run out of fuel because the lines gel up and you can't force the fuel through that frozen line. Okay, so if it's the summertime, humans have the urge when you're filling up a truck on a long distance run of topping that tank off till there won't no more fit in there. Well, I found out in the summertime, the diesel fuel is in the ground, especially in the early spring. The diesel fuel is in the ground and it's quite cold. When it comes up, and gasoline doesn't have this problem, but diesel fuel expands when it starts to warm up like crazy. And what you will find is you'll fuel this truck up and fill it up past the point where it first clicks off, so that it's topped right off to the very top. You get as much in it as you can, But you'll come back from getting a coffee, and this truck will be puking diesel fuel by the cap coming out of the tank, because there's so much fuel in that tank and the expansion rate is so great that it cannot go anywhere but out of the fuel tank. And at this point, there's no way of stopping it. It's going to come out until that pressure equalizes in the tank. It's not enough to blow the lines or anything like that. You talk about a mess. Now, oh, that was close. Now, when you're talking about playing with diesel fuel, gasoline's bad enough when you spill it on the ground, because whatever you spill it on is slippery. But I'm telling you this because I just had this experience myself. When you're at these nasty truck stops that have diesel fuel spilled all over the pavement, or you spill diesel fuel and step in it, when you get on that truck and there's 3 to 4 steps to get up to the seat, and you put diesel fuel on those steps, the next time you get out of that truck, for no reason at all, you're going to find yourself on the ground in a coma. There's no way that your shoes can get traction on that step in diesel fuel. And then if it's raining a little bit, you can ice skate on this stuff. So when you're monkeying around with diesel fuel, for God's sakes, make sure you I take a towel with me and put it on the floor to wipe my feet off with, and you'll see that a lot of truckers have a wiping station right at the top step and a towel on the floor that they're driving in every time they fuel. And it's a nasty old throwaway towel or something you stole from the motel. But man, I'm here to tell you, it works. And if you don't pay attention to that first step, you will be on the ground. It'll put the hurt on you right now. Now with a gasoline engine, it's similar but not the same. A gasoline engine that you've gotten bad fuel and you fueled up and the thing has been running fine for days, no problem. All of a sudden you fuel up and it starts barking and coughing and giving you hell. It's because you got some bad fuel. Now to go into the fuel tanks, the explanation there, they are these fuel tanks, are these monstrous tanks in the ground, and most companies put water in the bottom of the tank, and that's just below the suction hose in the tank is going to be a layer of water. The reason being, water is heavier than oil, and oil is what gasoline and diesel is made out of. So the diesel floats and the water goes to the bottom of the tank, but the water also holds the dirt and crud and impurities down at the bottom of the tank. Now this is all very good, except if you pull into a fuel station and there is a tanker fueling, filling this place up, they pretty much are pouring this stuff in there in a 3 or 2 to 5 inch hose at thousands of gallons. And what they do realistically is stir up that crud from the bottom of the tank and the water and mix it in with the fuel. And it's only for like 20 minutes to a half an hour, I think. I'm no expert on this. But I do know I've had trouble with fuel when I'm trying to fuel when that tanker is putting fuel in the other end. Now I hope you can still hear me. It's starting to rain like crazy and the visibility is getting ugly. But anyway, we'll keep going. So, on a gasoline engine, you would stop and put dry gas in there. And the dry gas is got an alcohol base, and it will absorb the water in the fuel in your system, and it'll run like a rate date. But diesel is quite a bit different. Now, the diesel engine, the way I understand, was developed to run, and it was perfected by, by Hitler, because the U.S. had tied up all the petroleum supplies. And you can't see anything out here. It's raining so hard. We're going to just take it easy. My best bet when it's raining this hard is just to pull over and take a nap. There's no use fighting Mother Nature, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody out there. I hope I'm not in any danger of an animal running out or a car being stuck in the middle of the road. Let's go back to diesel. So the story that I got was Hitler developed the diesel, the Deutz diesel, German, to run on vegetable oil, and that's what he ran, like a corn oil or vegetable oil that McDonald's runs their fries in, and it runs better on that than it does actually on petroleum diesel. Now the Americans and the rest of the world, after the war was over, they went to petroleum because it was readily available, I guess, and that's where the big money was. So these things run, dang, that was close. These things run on vegetable oil just as well as they do on petroleum oil. Only problem with vegetable oil is that it inherently eats rubber hoses. So if you have an old-fashioned rubber instead of that new high-strength nylon plastic hose, that will crush that hose up in a year or so until nothing flows through it. Now we've got somebody doing 30 miles an hour in a 60-mile-an-hour zone here. So if that engine isn't ready for vegetable oil, you can't run vegetable oil in it. But it runs fine on vegetable oil. But let's say, just for fun, to make a short story long, that you have fueled up and gotten water in the fuel. Now there's a light on a diesel because diesels are very, very sensitive to moisture. And the reason they're sensitive to moisture is that it is a high pressure fuel injection system. It isn't like a little pump that pressurizes the system on gasoline. These injectors are super high pressure and they miss that gas. The water compression ratio of water to fuel is far different. Water doesn't compress very easy and it just clogs your system up. So if the light on the dash says water in fuel come up, or it starts running nasty right after you have fueled, you got water in the fuel. There is a way out of that. The same thing as STP or a gasoline engine is going to be automatic transmission fluid. Same thing you put in a car's transmission. This is the highest level of oil that engine will run on, and it loves it, absolutely loves it. When they change the filters on a diesel, that's what they fill the filters up with before they put them back on. Now, the cheapest and the best automatic transmission fluid to use is Type F. F is in Fred. It's the cheapest, and there's not a lot of micron additives and all that crap that you don't need in a diesel engine. But that will carry the water. It'll grab the water and carry it through the fuel system successfully. So if you've got say a 50-gallon tank, a quart of Type F automatic transmission fluid will get it running straight again. It's going to take, anywhere up to 50 miles, but you'd rather have it running again smooth. It doesn't hurt. You can add all you want, but this stuff gets to be $2-3 a quart instead of $2 or $3 a gallon. It's very expensive, but it will do the trick. So that's to all you diesel people. Good luck learning diesel.